can you become a better investor? An investor is a decision maker, a trigger puller, a financial sniper, if you will. But snipe at what? For this, snipers usually have spotters. So strictly speaking, to be a better investor, you don't really have to be an analyst, but it sure helps if you are a good spotter analyst yourself. What does make a good investment spotter? In the early days of my career, I ran several research departments, then a hedge fund. All in all, I managed more than 50 analysts in my life. In my experience, the best analysts have three qualities. Quality one, they can see what others don't, often via an artistic ability to see pattern. Quality two, they can stand up to conventional authorities who tell them they are not just wrong but foolish. Quality three, good analysts have a memory of past cases, an internal AI, if you will, of what worked before and what didn't. In other words, good analysts have guts, intuition, and long experience. How to attain these three qualities? Let's go over them one by one. Number one, being able to see what others don't usually means seeing patterns, and it's usually innate. You either have it or you don't. But doing something artistic helps. Playing or listening to music, reading good books, or writing them if you can, or playing chess. In all this, seeing patterns often beats calculations. But where to look for winning patterns? I would start by resolutely refusing to see what everyone else does see or think is obvious. Brexit will surely fail, or maybe not. Global warming is a terrible risk, or is it really? Hillary Clinton will surely win. What if she doesn't? Deflation is certain, or is it? Only when you stand in the teeth of consensus against The Economist, CNN, the Wall Street Journal, Fox News, and the New York Times, and all your brokers analysts, do you have a chance of seeing what all others don't see. Now, why don't they see it too? That's because either they think it's very unlikely, or most often because it threatens their world outlook that the world is fair, and so the brain won't let them see it. Number two, now how about standing firm against pressure to conform? That's among the hardest abilities to have because it's hard to stand against authorities when all shout at you that not only you're foolish, but a bad person too, to forecast an outcome they dislike. For example, if you had forecasted that Trump would win, I won 4 bets on it, even though I dislike him, you could have made 6 times your money on the Iowa futures betting site, where up to 2 weeks before the election, the price was 16 cents for a dollar if Trump wins. 6 times your money in 2 weeks. How was that for a game? And yet, although the poll data was clear, most of those who write in newspapers or speak on TV refused to hear it and see it, just because, like me, they dislike Trump as a person. But what this got to do with anything? When you forecast, you're not acting as a voter. You are acting as an opportunity spotter. You must force yourself to see what's really there, and to do this, that's the hard part. You often must stop your brain from blocking you. Now, why would your brain block you? A good comparison for this is a medieval cardinal refusing to look through Galileo's telescope because it may prove that the earth indeed revolves around the sun, contrary to the Bible. The cardinal brain suspected that facing this would mean never having lunch with other cardinals again, perhaps even lose his rank and his pension, and so he didn't dare look. What facts does your brain block you from seeing? If you can identify them, you can make a lot of money, because chances are many other brains are blocking others from seeing these facts too, so there's plenty of money on the table betting wrong. Yes, it takes guts to face public ridicule and act on your facts. But as a smart Roman once said, no virtue is possible without the most important one, courage. How much courage do you have to stand up to others who try to shame you to change your minds? Number 3 is for knowing history. This one is not innate. You gain it with years' experience in the market. But even when you are only starting out, you can strengthen it by the study of actual world history. And here the benefits are many. Let me mention 4. Comparing past problems to today, spotting turnarounds, how markets or people change fast, and why liking a person may be irrelevant to judging how he or she would perform. Let's take these 4 in turn. First, comparing past problems to today. If you study the world history, you soon realize that today's problems are not unique, The same problems we have today have always existed in one form or another, and so were their solutions. I already compared today's money printing to the French Revolution printing. This tells me that gold can go higher, much higher. What do you think? The second one is spotting turnarounds. Similarly, if you read ancient history, you would see very fast that turning around a city in trouble is not that much different from turning around a company in trouble. The man in charge often makes all the difference, or the woman. Whether Coriolanus in Rome, Themistocles in Athens, or Lee Iacocca in Chrysler. So when you sleuth turnarounds, it pays to focus on the person in charge, because 90% of your bet is based on him or her. Third one is change of trend or a mood. History shows you how changes often arrive at the very last moment of despair, because humans accept changes only at the very last moment, when there's no other choice. If you learn to identify such points, you can buy close to bottoms and sell close to tops. When everyone is sure the world ends, or that the turnaround will never come. I gave you an example of this. First, when the fear and greed index was 3 out of 100 in March, after being 93 in December last year. The second time, when oil plunged to a negative price. The first was a temporary bottom in the market. The second, temporary bottom in the price of oil. The last thing to learn from history is that leaders and morality is not always relevant. What is hardest to accept, perhaps, in history is that effective leaders are not always good people. This is true for countries as well as companies. Napoleon was not a good man, nor was Steve Jobs, but they both built empires. Some who lost to them were better people, but still they lost. Trump may not be a good person. He often bankrupted his companies to avoid paying his debts, and occasionally behaved like a thug. But is this relevant? General Grant, who won the Civil War for Lincoln, was mostly drunk and wasted soldiers' lives so cavalierly that he became known as the Butcher. Indeed, David Lloyd George, one of England's best prime ministers, said that a good prime minister should first and foremost be a good butcher. That is, be able to do the necessary dirty deed that keep his citizens or shareholders safe. Jimmy Carter, on the other hand, was a kind-hearted saint. But so what? He failed to bring home the Americans imprisoned in Iran. He only lasted 4 years, and today is remembered for stagflation. Sadly, history teaches that moral qualities in a leader are nice to have, but are often irrelevant. Do you dislike what I say? If so, you'd never have invested in Apple, nor won a bet on Trump winning. If you judge corporate leaders by the qualities you judge your friends by, I and other sleuths who can face reality as it truly is, not as we wish it were, will take your money in the market. Now you may ask, what is this X factor that makes one leader successful, whether of a corporation or a country, if it is not correlated with being moral? Well, if you learn to identify that factor, you can become very successful, both in the market and as a leader yourself. But that's a topic for totally another clip. For now, if you focus on the following 3 qualities, it would help you become a better spotter of opportunities. Quality 1, try to avoid seeing what everyone else sees as obvious. Try to see what they don't see, even if it causes you discomfort, especially if it does. That's often a sure sign that your kind-hearted brain is stopping you from seeing a pattern of reality that you morally disagree with, but is still true. Develop your courage to stand up to universal pressure to conform to what everyone thinks if facts and history tell you that they are all wrong. Number 3, study history, both of the market and of the world, to become familiar with conflicts and with the real leaders who get results. The hardest lesson here is to learn to separate your moral judgment of people and the world from a forecast based on real facts and real history. If you do all that, your own investment results will improve and your money will grow. Bet on the likeliest winners, whether you like them or not. Then give some of your hard-earned money to the saints. Please let me know what you think of all this. Give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and tell your friend to subscribe. I'll see you next time. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching.